My guest now at the roundtable, Jason Chaffetz, former Republican congressman of Utah. He was just yards away from Charlie Kirk when he was assassinated. Patrick Murphy, former Democratic congressman of New York. Macy Gannell, Turning Point USA president at St. Mary's College and president of College Republicans of America. C.J. Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory co-chair. A hat tip to our former members of Congress. I'm going to start with the generation right now that I know has a huge task ahead. It's got to feel heavy. You and I have talked a little bit. Talk to me, Macy.
It's heavy. I mean, to say that this is a heartbreak, that's an understatement. I mean, our hearts are heavy, but I can tell you now that our grief, it's turning to the stage of anger. So it's important now that we take this anger, we turn it into passion. And that's exactly what Charlie would want. This has to be a moment of activism in our country. And as a current college student, I can tell you that that's so important to have on our college campuses. So it's so disheartening to see that there's people on my own college campus too who are celebrating this, who are encouraging the assassination of political figures. That's not okay. It's terrifying that this is my generation. This is a rhetoric that we're encouraging. It's scary.
I want to lean in with something that we spoke about in the green room because it was the first time I'd heard it. So you've been trying on your campus as conservatives for years to try to get a chapter of Turning Point USA. Where is that now?
So we have been unapproved for several years. Ever since the very beginning, we've not been allowed to operate because they dislike Charlie Kirk. They think he's evil, and they don't like his stance on there's only two genders. So this is something that I've been fighting for years, but now more than ever, I know that this is something I have to fight for. So we are currently in the process of getting it approved. I'm hopeful. It's better moving than we had in the past few years. But like I said, I mean, now more than ever, on our college campuses, that's where we're going to have this movement back towards truth. And we have to model the pursuit and the passion and the hunger for truth that Charlie had. And it's only going to happen on our college campuses.
Modeling it. And I say that because of his Christian faith, CJ. I mean, the fruit of the Spirit now has to come out for those of us who are believers so that when the other side looks at all of you politically, they see a non-political faith and they see love on the other side. Is that even possible?
You know, I would hope so. You know, there's been an indication that, unfortunately, you know, I read a YouGov poll that showed that almost a nearly majority of people who identify as progressive or liberal in this country are okay with political violence. And so when I hear people, you know, on TV, in the media, trying to both sides this issue, this is not a both sides issue at this point. The bullets are coming from left to right disproportionately. For everything from the congressional baseball shooting that we saw, the 2 assassination attempts against President Trump, and the successful and tragic killing of Charlie Kirk is tragic, but we have to figure out how do we lower the temperature. But that's not a left-right conversation. Disproportionately, it's happening on the left.
So what does lower temperature look like? I was just talking about those comments about, you know, from Jimmy Kimmel earlier in the broadcast. And I said more speech is always better, but it comes with responsibility and expectation. I mean, FCC aside, as human beings, we need to think about the words that we say. So what does it look like to you?
I think it's, you know, for those on the left to not describe everyone that they disagree with as a fascist, or to not equate people who simply have beliefs and love their God, love their country as the equivalent of Hitler. I think that would be the bare minimum of this.
Wow.
You know, I'm a Georgia boy. I'm come from the South. When we disagree with people, we don't shoot bullets. We don't beat them up. What we say is we say, bless your heart, and we keep it moving. And I think that's what we need to actually learn, is how to have discussions in this country, because as you just said, more speech is what makes America, America, not less speech.
All right. Didn't know you were a fellow Peach. Yeah. From Georgia. And from Pennsylvania, former Congressman Patrick Murphy and Fox News contributor. You know, I was reading something on your Substack, and I have to admit, it's my newest guilty pleasure. So in today's America, saying that someone shouldn't be gunned down sparks outrage when the person was controversial and highly objectionable to a large portion of the country. Mourning someone I disagreed with is not weakness, it is strength.
Yeah, and, you know, I think, Harris, you said it really eloquently earlier. You talked about having a responsibility. We all have a responsibility. I appreciate that you put Cardinal Dolan's piece in the New York Post. He said, let peace begin with me. And Jesus was the Prince of Peace, and that's my Lord and Savior. But we all have to do better. It's easy when someone that we love is murdered like that in front of his wife and children. And Jason, I love you, man, and I'm sorry that you were there, and your wife and Julie and your kids. But it's easy to kind of go dig in your trenches. It's harder, though, to say, what could I do to find the humanity in my brothers and sisters? What could I do to say, I'm not going to use the language, like you mentioned, on either side, right? Because it's just
only
wrong.
one side is calling people Nazis, fascists, and Hitler.
On that case, but the other side's calling Democrats socialists, and I'm not trying to
That's not the same thing.
I think Mamdani
Antifa.
would identify proudly as a socialist.
Yeah, and there's other things that they say that they're un-American. Listen, I'm not here to. I'm not definitely going to.
I'm just pointing out a fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
one literally calls for violence. Those words do.
yeah, and the Cato Institute says that there's more attacks from the right wing than the left wing, but it doesn't the bottom line is that we got to stop. We got to take down temperature, which is why I appreciate you inviting us here on this panel.
How many current Democrats have you talked to about that?
A lot. I have a lot of Democrats.
Are they listening?
Some of them are.
Jasmine Crockett, AOC. Are these people listening?
I saw the
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, and I saw the
the
hearings.
list is far too long. It should be zero. You were such leadership in Congress, chairman of oversight. Oversee this for us. How do we go forward?
Well, look, if there were people like Patrick in Congress or Senator Manchin, you can actually talk to these people. I was friends with a lot of Democrats, but there is this radical left part of the party. To say that it's calling somebody a socialist, there is the Democratic Socialist of America.
Bernie
This
Sanders.
is like a political party. So there was a drumbeat from people, fascist, 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 which wasn't true, but something clicked. When Donald Trump was elected, they thought they then had permission to lash out and violently. And that you can look at hundreds of riots that happened in this country. You look at the attack on Steve Scalise. You look at the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk wanted to have debate. He invited them. I was there when they started chanting USA, USA. Then they were chanting Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk. And you know what? When Charlie Kirk came up, right above him, there was an LGBTQ group with a flag. That's why I assumed that they were and he kind of leaned over and he actually said it to them. Hey, come on, come down here, join the discussion. I haven't even seen that video, but he did lean out and invite them to come down. And he would put people who disagree with him right at the front of the line. And we need more of that. But what did they do? They assassinated him. They killed him because he was so affected in the argument. That's what's so sad and tragic about this.
Harris, can I just mention something? Jason and I served in Congress together, right? And I was a term ahead of him, but in his second term, our colleague Gabby Giffords was shot in the head at a Congress New York corner event in Arizona. Jason and I were talking about it. The attacks then were like maybe a couple thousand on members of Congress, their staff, their families, or threats. Now it's right, but now it's over 9,000. It is more than tripled since our time in Congress. And that's why we got to do it. And that's why I appreciate really doing this today. We got to do a better job as Americans because, divided, we're going to fall. We got to stand united. Right. And again, it's okay to disagree as long as you're not being disagreeable about it.
Look, I want to get this in here. It's important to have these conversations. It's important for you all to see us have it. I've got an Alpha and a Gen Z at home. It's really critical. And lean on those of us who have seasoning. Right? The voices.
I'm the only one with gray hair here.
To bring forth the voices that say, absolutely, absolutely, your words matter.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.